I go with the assumption that they're telling me how they feel and what they want to do. I hear Trump saying, we're going to bring manufacturing back to the US. And I'm sitting here and I know people in the manufacturing world. And when they tell me it would take 5 years minimum, realistically 10 years to bring these things back, I worry about the velocity that he seems not, I don't want to say it's a pipe dream, but he is perhaps promising.
I think pipe dream is overly optimistic.
Well, it's, he's trying to throw all these particular levers. What are your thoughts on, I guess, two-pronged question? One, that desire to bring the manufacturing back, but two, what is the realistic timeline that you think people should be viewing this through?
Well, again, three things. Number one, figure out what we want. So right now, the United States is the most technologically advanced services economy in the world. We have outsourced most of the manufacturing to worker sets that are more appropriate. If we were to try to do most manufacturing in the United States today, the cost would be so much higher because that's not what our skill set is. That's not what we've trained for. That's not what we've built our infrastructure for. So the big story in the United States right now, if you can put the global stuff aside for a moment, it's data centers, high value added because of software, and that makes American workers the most productive on the planet. That is not the workforce or the infrastructure that you need if you want to, say, manufacture a computer, especially at the assembly stage. That is significantly further down the system. So we do the high-end purification for the inputs. We do the design. We do the very, very high value-added components. And then those three steps are taken somewhere else where the lower manufacturing quality is done. So great example, think about automobiles. The most sophisticated part of the automobiles today are the transmission and the computing components. And we do some of that. Some of the lower end stuff is, say, the engine block. Mexico does that. Americans can make the engine block, but for every person we put on making the engine block, that's one fewer person that can do the transmission. And if you apply that for the million or so different product codes that we have, if we want to do it all at home ourselves, we'll have a Mao economy. And we would see economic growth plummet once we got the growth spurt out of the way from actually building the infrastructure, because we're just not value added in that way. We need partners to do those steps. So that's kind of collectively piece one. Piece two, let's say we decide we still want to go down that road, that we still want to reduce the American economy in terms of value added and reduce our standard of living in order to achieve a degree of security. That's a choice we could make if we wanted to. If that is the goal, we need to expand the American industrial plant bare minimum by about $40 trillion. That's just to take the stuff that comes from the East Asian rim today if we want to build it here. If you want to go 100% autarkic and make everything produced here, you're now talking probably about something closer to $100 trillion of a capital investment. That requires a degree of not just government leadership that we are usually not comfortable with, but a degree of reliability in the regulatory structure and the governing structure and the tax structure that the Trump administration has not even expressed an interest in exploring. So today, we got our 133rd change in tariff policies of this administration. No one knows what the rules are going to be tomorrow, much less next year, much less 10 years from now. And it takes time for this stuff to take effect. So we've seen industrial construction spending flatline for the entirety of the Trump administration because no one knows what the rules of the game are. And if you're going to make an investment of something that from an economic point of view seems unwise, unless you're sure that the rules are going to hold for a decade, why would you make that investment in the first place? What was the third thing?
I think that was the third thing.
Let's see. Third thing.
Well, interestingly, you're the first person that I've heard, or maybe I'm not paying attention enough. I mean, we're so bombarded with information. It's hard to, separate the wheat from the chaff. And people think that their algorithms are flawed, but the reality is you just get shown more of what you engage with. So maybe you have a hand in your own algorithm. So I like to see bike crashes and people not looking both ways when they cross the street. I don't know what that says about me, not germane to the conversation, but it's the first I've heard, the conversation that I am hearing externally, specifically from those aligned with the Trump administration. And maybe I'm paraphrasing this incorrectly, but for the future and security of our country, we have to stop relying on other countries. We need to bring jobs here and security. But I've never once heard them say we'd have to reduce our quality of life to trade in a potentially Faustian bargain for an increase in that security.
You just reminded me of the third thing.